Good evening, students. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 1 minute. Can you make me a host, ma'am? Epsilon Academy.
Ma'am, just give me 1 second. I'm just making you the host.
Yeah, please make me a host.
Ma'am, I'm having some technical issue. I'll just log out and log in back. Just give me
Yes, I cannot hear you, ma'am. I cannot hear you.
Okay, I'll just log out and log in.
Okay.
Ma'am, I've made you the host.
Yeah, I have seen. Good evening, students. So how many of you are there? Total 10, I think so. So anybody new entry in this class? Anybody are anybody for anybody? This is the first class, biology.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let us start the class. So in the last class, what we have been discussing?
Ma'am,
Can anybody give a summary?
discussing till photosynthesis.
Yes, what we have discussed. I have given you all also small homework.
Ma'am, till stomata we have done, ma'am.
Huh?
Ma'am, it's Dr. Barnes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you finished your drawings? Practice your drawings? Huh? Have you practiced your drawings? No? Any of you did not do it? Okay, if we, once we meet in offline again, then I'll check everything. So be ready by that time. So let us continue with our chapter. So where we have stopped, we finished about the autotrophic nutrition. Am I right? Autotrophic nutrition, photosynthesis and everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there, all of you? Please answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So today we'll be starting with the heterotrophic nutrition. So what we know about the heterotrophic nutrition, I have given you all the definition in the last class. Can anybody tell?
Ma'am, they obtain their energy through the intake and digestion of the organic substances, ma'am.
They cannot prepare their own food. They depend on the other organisms for their food. And the organisms are known as heterotrophs and the nutrition is known as the heterotrophic nutrition. So in heterotrophic nutrition, there are three different types: holozoic, saprophytic, and parasitism. Even symbiotic also comes as the heterotrophic nutrition. I did not mention over here. Please note down. The holozoic nutrition is a one type of nutrition. Saprophytic or saprophytism, we call it as, is one type of nutrition. Parasitism is one type of nutrition, and also is symbiotic, also comes under the heterotrophic nutrition. So coming to the holozoic nutrition, the organisms feed by indigesting the solid food, solid organic food, which is then digested and absorbed in their body. Such a type of nutrition is known as the holozoic nutrition, where the organisms take intake of the food is a solid matter, which later will be digested and absorbed into the body. So what is the type of nutrition? By this, what can come as examples? What can come as examples? Are you there, people? Cannot see your Aditi. What comes as the examples for holozoic nutrition?
Ma'am, can I say, ma'am?
Yeah, please tell.
Yes, ma'am. Humans and animals, ma'am.
Humans, animals, even insectivorous plants. Because what are the insectivorous plants? Examples?
Ma'am, picture plant.
Picture plant. Any more? So all these comes as the holozoic nutrition. People are not responding much. All should be active when we are going through the class. Okay, one talking, other being silent. No, this does not work out. It does not go properly. That too in online classes. So all of you please answer. Okay. Next comes to the second type of nutrition. And this all you have studied in your class 11 itself, I think so. Am I right? If you people remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Coming to the saprophytic nutrition. What is the saprophytic nutrition? You can study
They
from
feed on dead and
you can read it from the slideshow also. What is saprophytic nutrition?
Organisms which feed on dead and decaying matter, ma'am.
Examples?
Fungi.
Next, parasitic nutrition. One of the boys. You cannot see the names. I'm repeatedly opening, closing. Sanyu Kumar. Are you there? Arman, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please tell what is parasitic nutrition.
Ma'am, this is Dul. Ma'am, this is Dul here, ma'am. I joined the class to mobile data. I don't have current.
Okay,
Same here.
Oh.
I got disconnected, ma'am. Just now I joined.
okay. What is parasitic nutrition? Arman, please tell.
The parasitic nutrition is in which the parasite obtains nutrients from the host, like
Okay.
fleas and flies.
Fleas, flies, and tapeworms.
Tapeworms.
Okay. Tapeworms, where they exist inside the mammalian stomachs, like pig, even humans also. Lice, I think all of you know, they exist in the hairs of the animals. Okay. Fleas also, they exist on the skin of the animals. Okay, on the cow skin and all those. So these are the type of nutrition where they obtain nutrients from the living organisms is called as the parasitic nutrition. Example, fleas, lice, and tapeworms. These are the animal examples. Whereas in case of plants, cuscuta is the best example of the parasitic nutrition, where it depends on the host plant for its nutrition. So if you see a plant and see a small yellow thread-like structure on the plant, usually we see on the roadside plants. If you observe it, you can see, any of you have observed small string-like or thread-like structures, yellow color. It will be like a small thread, which will be covering or almost complete plant. Anybody have observed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that is a cuscuta plant. Because it is not green in color, it is yellow in color, it cannot prepare its own food. So it needs to, it has small root-like structures which are attached to it, which can penetrate into the host plant and absorb all the nutrients required for its growth and development. Okay, and all these examples what I have given are in your textbook. So as per your textbook, these are the examples given. In case of, you can write extra examples where if it's required. So in parasitic nutrition, you can write plants. For example, for plants is cuscuta. Okay, in addition to it, there is also a symbiotic nutrition or it is a mutual, where each other will be benefited from each other. Best example is in case of symbiotic nutrition, the nutrition where both the organisms will be benefited from each other. So neither of them is a host, neither of them is a parasite. So both will be benefited from each other. The best example, can anybody tell?
Ma'am, ribosomes and rice crops, ma'am.
Leguminous crops.
Leguminous crops.
Leguminous crops, root nodules contains nitrogen fixing bacteria, which is nothing yeah, which is nothing but rhizobium. So it will be helping in fixing of the nitrogen for the plants, whereas in case of the plants will in turn will be providing the nutrients required for its growth. That is one example of the symbiotic nutrition. Other one is lichens, lichens, which is nothing but a combination of algae and fungi. A combination of algae and fungi is known as lichens. So algae will be, they depend on each other, and this type of nutrition is known as symbiotic nutrition. So algae, it's a blue-green algae, but it will be able to prepare its own food, whereas fungi will be helping in some other things to the algae. So both of them will be forming a combination known as lichens. Understood, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now let us move to the next slide. So now coming to the nutrition in plants. So this is how the basic process of nutrition takes place in animals. So from here we'll be only talking mostly about the human beings, different organ systems, and also in relation with the plants only we'll be talking mostly about. So first starting with the nutrition, what is the process that takes place? Means after the food is taken, what will happen? What is the process that takes? So these are the 5 steps that will be taken. So intake of the food is known as ingestion. After that, the food will be digested. That is, larger molecules of food will be broken down into the smaller molecules. And later, after the smaller molecules, it is broken down into smaller molecules. The smaller molecules will be reabsorbed or absorbed into the tissue to generate energy and whatever required for our metabolism. Assimilation. Okay. Now whatever the food that is not digested will be assimilated and it will be thrown outside the body. Means as a feces or as a urine or whatever it is, it will be thrown outside the body. And this process is known as egestion. So this is a normal process. Most of the higher animals, always this process, the nutrition process. Once the food is taken in, this is how it happens and waste will be produced. First, we'll be talking about the nutrition in the unicellular organisms, that is the amoeba. So in case of amoeba, the nutrition is a holozoic nutrition only. Okay. So the solid food particles will be indigested, which later again will be reacting with the enzymes and finally they will be digested. So amoeba is an omnivore. What is omnivore?
Both, they eat both veg and non-veg.
Both on plants and animal. Okay. So what does the amoeba mainly do? First, this is the process. You can stepwise process I have given in form of a chain. So amoeba produces a finger-like projections. Okay, these are the nothing but the extra extensions of the cell membrane. Those finger-like projections are known as pseudopodia. So these are the pseudopodia you can see in the figure. So usually amoeba does not have a definite shape. All of you know, and it is a unicellular organism. Inside there will be a nucleus. So once it interacts with the food or anything, once it reaches senses the food by its chemoreceptors or whatever it is, first it will be producing a finger-like projections, which are nothing but the extensions of the cell membrane known as pseudopodia. So once the pseudopodia produce, what will be the second step? First, it will be capturing the food. Once the food is captured, next step will be, it will be taking the food inside like a food vacuole. You can see in the figure. So it will be engulfing the food and taking the food as a food vacuum. Okay. So now you can see here the food vacuole enters inside the amoeba. I'm pointing out the arrow. Please look at the arrow. Once the food vacuoles enters into the amoeba, so now digestion of the food will be taking place inside the food vacuole. Okay. So after it is digested, whatever the substance, the simple substance from the food vacuole, you can see here, this is the food vacuole. So digestion takes place inside the food vacuole itself. Once the food is digested, the simple substance will be entering into the cytoplasmic region. 1 minute, I'll put a pointer so that you can understand. So now the food vacuoles will be, no, I'll put this. So now this is the food vacuole. Now the digestion takes place inside the food vacuole itself. Now the food will be broken down into simple substance inside the food vacuole itself. Once it is digested, now the simple substance by process of diffusion enters into the cytoplasm. This dot thing is nothing but the cytoplasm. Whereas the undigested undigested food. Whatever the food which is undigested also is present still in the food vacuole. Now again, it will be moved to the surface of the cell and it will be thrown out. How it has taken inside the food in the similar manner, the food, undigested food also will be thrown out. So everything takes place in a single cell through a cell membrane itself, in a small food vacuole. In case of a unicellular organism, amoeba. Are you able to understand?
No.
Yes? Any doubts, all of you? Any doubts?
No, mom.
Have you noted it down? Have you drawn the figure? Have you copied the
Yes,
flowchart?
mom.
Shall I move on to the next slide?
Mom, can you wait for 1
Yes,
minute?
mom.
Okay, mom.
Yeah. So this is a simple nutrition process. Because it is a unicellular organism, it does not have any organs or organ systems. Only by simple food vacuole, by pseudopodia, it is able to take in food and also throw out the waste or undigested food. Now comes the 1 minute. Nutrition in the human beings. Okay. So what did the 1 minute. So coming to the nutrition in the human beings. So from this is the complete digestive system of the human beings. What comes under the digestive system of the human beings? Mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. And this is the most important figure for you. Okay. So starting from here, the stomach, this is the stomach, sorry, this is the mouth. From the mouth, it leads to, this is called as the buccal cavity. Okay. From the buccal cavity, we enters into the esophagus. From the esophagus, it enters into the stomach. And from the stomach, it enters into the small intestine. This is the small intestine. And from the small intestine, this is completely, this is all the small coil-like things. This is the small intestine. From the small intestine, it enters into the larger intestine. And from the larger intestine, it enters into the rectum. This part is known as, wherever I'm pointing, please note down. This part is known as the rectum. And from that, all the undigested food will be thrown out through the anus. Okay. So these all completely is known as the digestive system of the human beings. So these are the different parts. Now I'm actually telling you like a flow chart so that it will be easy for you all to understand. Before going to the mouth, let us see what does the mouth has. Let us see in detail what does the mouth has. Later again, we'll go to the other organs or other parts of the digestive system. So coming to the mouth. What does the mouth has? What does we have?
Teeth,
As mouth
and
has
tongue.
teeth and also
tongue, salivary glands.
tongue. First, let us start with the what does the parts, different parts present inside the mouth. So the mouth has teeth and the tongue. The complete part inside the mouth is known as a buccal cavity. Means the combination of teeth, lungs, and whatever is present is known as the buccal cavity. Okay. So in addition to this, there will be glands also known as salivary glands. These are present inside the mouth. So 3 different types of salivary glands are present inside the mouth. Please note down. 3 different types of salivary glands are present inside the mouth. And what is the main function of these salivary glands? The main function of the salivary glands is to produce saliva as well as to produce an enzyme known as salivary amylase. Okay, the main function of the salivary glands is to produce saliva. Whatever is substance we get in our mouth is known as the saliva. I think so all of you know it. So, and also produces an enzyme known as salivary amylase. Okay, whereas the tongue, what is the function of the tongue? Function of the tongue is to know the sense of taste, the gustatory receptors. What are the receptors present on the tongue? Gustatory receptors. Please remember the name of the receptors. Why is in the next class, in the next lesson, you need to know about what are the receptors present. So what is the type of receptors present on the tongue? The tongue receptors contains gustatory receptors, which plays an important role in the sense. In detecting the sense or in detecting the taste of the food, whatever we eat. Okay, so the tongues will be helping us to turn the food and allow it to mix properly. And the teeth, what its main function of the teeth is to break down the food, means it helps us in chewing the food, breaking down into smaller particle and also making it easier to swallow. And we have 4 different type of teeth. What are those? Can anybody tell?
Ma'am, incisors, canine,
Canines, molars, and premolars.
As we have 4 different type of teeth, it is not there. Please note down whatever I'm telling also. I don't have writer to write it up, so I'm not able to write. By next class, I'll arrange it. Okay. So they are incisors, canines, premolars, molars. So coming to the incisor. Incisor are used in cutting of the food. Canines are used in the tearing of the food. And cracking of the hard substance like nuts and all those. Whereas premolars and molars are mainly used in the grinding of the food. Understood? So this is how mouth will be intaking the whole food. Teeth will be chewing or grinding of the food. Tongue will be rolling the food and also tasting of the food and help in the swallowing and pushing the food, down the food through the esophagus. In addition, salivary glands will be secreting saliva plus mucus plus enzyme known as salivary amylase. Okay, this salivary amylase will be converting. The main function of this is to convert the starch present in our food to simpler sugars like maltose or glucose or what it is. So it converts the starch to maltose. The main function of salivary amylase is to convert the starch. Starch is nothing but the carbohydrate which is present inside our food. It will be converting it into maltose, simpler sugar. Maltose is nothing but a simpler sugar. Any doubts? So the pH of the mouth usually is around 6.2 to 6.8. pH of a mouth is 6.2 to 6.8. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, my internet got disconnected. 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. So where I miss you all? Salivary gland secrete. You can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So the salivary glands secrete an enzyme known as
Salivary amylase.
and what is the function of the salivary amylase? Or
It is often
complex
recognized.
carbohydrates into simple sugars. What is the function of the salivary and amylase? Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, ma'am. They break down the carbohydrates into simpler sugars.
Carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates to simple sugars, or you can, in more detail, you can write it as it converts starch into maltose. In brackets, simple sugar, like this. Previous slide, like a how I have kept in the previous slide. Starch to maltose. Maltose is nothing but one of the simple sugars. So the pH of the mouth is usually around 6.2 to 6.8. Once the food is chewed, grinded, everything, now the food is taken into the esophagus. Esophagus is nothing but the long tube. So immediately after the mouth or buccal cavity, it opens into the esophagus. Okay. Usually here what happens here is, in the next slide we will be seeing it. So actually the buccal cavity is divided into two parts. Okay, one part will be leading towards the trachea for the respiratory system. One part will be leading to the esophagus. Always the food will be entering only through the esophagus, because the part which is leading to the larynx and trachea will be always closed with the flap. We will be discussing that in detail in the respiratory system. So once the food enters into the esophagus is nothing but a long tube. The food slowly enters into the stomach by peristaltic movement. With the help of the peristaltic movements created by esophagus, finally it enters into the stomach. So what is a stomach? Stomach is a muscular organ. Okay, stomach is a muscular organ, and always it is in a form of this shape. It is like a bean shape. Okay, so the stomach lining contains glands known as gastric glands. What are the glands present in the linings of the What are the glands present in the lining of the stomach?
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
Ma'am, your voice is
Amma?
breaking.
My voice is breaking. What are the glands present inside? Can you hear me?
Ma'am, it's breaking, ma'am. Your voice is breaking, ma'am.
My voice is breaking. One
Yes,
minute. I don't know. 1 minute. hear me now? It's not breaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in the, now the food enters into the stomach. Stomach is a muscular organ, usually in the form of a bean shape. So in the linings of the stomach, please remember, in the linings of the stomach, the glands are present, and these glands are known as gastric glands. Okay, where they are present?
Around the stomach.
Lining of
Linings
stomach.
of the
Lining
stomach.
Lining of the stomach.
Lining of, not around the stomach, lining of the stomach. So these gastric glands secrete a juice known as gastric juice. So the gastric glands usually they secrete a juice known as gastric juice. So the usually pepsin, HCl, mucus. Maintain in acidic or 4.2 condition. That is the main function of HCl. In addition to it, it also will be killing the any bacteria we indigested along with the food. It's like a first defense barrier for us. Understood?
Ma'am, can you repeat again, ma'am?
The two main functions of HCl. HCl is what? Hydrochloric acid. Okay. So its main function is to keep the medium or maintain the pH of the stomach. So the pH of the stomach is 4.2. So it maintains the pH of the stomach in acidic conditions. And the second important function is it kills any bacteria or any other organisms ingested along with the food. So it's like a protection, first barrier of protection. If any harmful organisms or anything are indigested along with the food, they get, because the pH is very low, it is in acidic condition. So the most of the organisms will be killed in the stomach itself. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So this are the two functions of the HCl. Now coming to the pepsin. Why the pH should be maintained at 4 is because the pepsin is only active in a acidic conditions only. Pepsin is an enzyme. Okay, pepsin is an enzyme. It is with this enzyme exists both as a inactive form and as well as the active form. Inactive form is known as the pepsinogen. Active form is known as the pepsin. So only during when the pH is around 4.2 only, this enzyme will become active. And once it becomes active, it breaks the proteins into larger proteins into smaller peptides. You're writing it down? It breaks the larger proteins into smaller peptides. Next, in addition to it, there is another substance that is present in this gastric juice that is known as mucus. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
what is the pH
ma'am.
of the stomach?
4.2.
So, what is the condition? Acidic or basic condition? Acidic or basic condition? Answer. Amrita, answer. Amrita,
Yes, ma'am.
please answer. What is it? Acidic or basic condition? Stomach, what is it? In which acidic condition or basic condition? The medium inside the
Acidic condition.
What is the pH of the stomach? Vaishnavi? Vaishnavi,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the pH of the stomach?
4.2, ma'am.
So it's acidic or basic?
4.2, ma'am.
It's a acidic condition. If there is acidic condition means what will happen? If I put an acid on your hand, what will happen?
My hand will burn, ma'am.
Your hand will burn. Then what can happen to our stomach? What can happen to our stomach?
And it will also burn, ma'am.
It will have also bone. So it needs a. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So given by mucus. Mucus will be protecting the inner linings of our stomach. Mucus means nothing. Whatever when we sneeze out, when we have a huge cough, we'll be getting a thick substance from our nose. That is known as a mucus. The mucus will be lining the inner linings of the stomach and protect it from this acidic means because the linings of the stomach should not be worn out. If those worn out, what will happen? The liquid from the stomach will be outside the digestive system. So that should not happen. So to protect the inner linings of the stomach, by protecting the stomach as well as of the stomach is two blue points. This is the entry of the stomach. So the food will be entering from esophagus into the stomach. And from the stomach, it will be exiting into the small intestine. Am I right? So both the entry as well as the exit of the stomach is well protected by two flaps. The first flap, the flap that protects the entry of the food into the stomach is known as epiglottis. Only when this flap opens, it is like a wall. If only this flap opens, the food from the esophagus enters into the stomach. And again, it closes back. Well, and once the food is digested completely, now the sphincter muscle, the flap that guards the exit of the food from the stomach, that flap is known as the sphincter muscles. This one will be guarding the exit of the food from the stomach to the small intestine. Understood? So the flap that enters protects the entry of the food, regulates the entry of the food into the stomach is epiglottis, and the flap that regulates the exit of the food from digested food from the stomach is the sphincter muscles. Now, this is a main important. Anybody is having a gas problem, you heard about your gas problem from your grandmother or from your mother or father or whoever it is. We are having gas problem, gas trouble.
Yes, ma'am.
As why? Because sometimes as we age, this epiglottis becomes loose. So it becomes looser, and sometimes the food comes or flow back towards the esophagus. The food which enters the stomach, usually in your younger age, never this flap will be opening. But as we grow, the flap becomes looses, and sometimes the food which is present in the stomach, already mixed with acids, HCl and everything, will be flowing back to the esophagus. Due to that, we have gas trouble, or we also call it as heart acid heart or heart acid or something we call it as. Okay, so after the food is digested in the stomach, once it enters into the small intestine, it can never go back, because the sphincter muscles are so strong. Once the food leaves the stomachs and enters into the small intestine, it can never go back. Understood till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
once it enters into the small intestine, now small intestine, again we have 3 parts. Is divided into 3 parts. What are those? Here you can see in the red. Duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Have you heard about them? Nobody is listening, yaar.
No, ma'am.
You should respond, because what are the 3 parts? The small intestine is divided into 3 parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. So the food which exits the stomach will be entering into the duodenum. The small part is known as the duodenum. 1 minute, I'll show you all the. So this is the duodenum part. Okay, this small part is known as the duodenum, whereas the jejunum is the longest, is the jejunum, and the end part is known as the ileum.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so these are the three different parts of the small intestine. So in the small intestine, plays a very critical role in the digestion as well as the absorption of the food. Okay, both the digestion as well as the absorption of the food takes place in the small intestine. So this small intestine is slightly, the length of the small intestine is slightly different for the herbivores and the carnivores. In case of carnivores, the length is very small, whereas in case of herbivores, the like cows, deer, goat, and all those which feed on grass and everything, they have a longer, smaller intestine, because they will need to be digesting the cellulose based food, that is the plant food, in a larger quantities. Okay, so the large intestine length is larger in the herbivores compared to that of the small carnivores. Okay, in addition to this, the large intestine will be secreting the juice known as intestinal juice. So the large intestine will be secreting the intestinal juice, which will be contains lots of enzymes, which will be able to convert carbohydrates to glucose, fats to fatty acids and glycerol, proteins to amino acids. So first juice that is secreted by the intestine, small intestine itself, is the intestinal juice. And what is the function of this intestinal juice? It will be converting carbohydrates to glucose, fats to fatty acids and glycerol, and proteins to amino acids. In addition to this, they are not the part of digestive system, but they play an important role we can call them as the accessory organs of the digestive system. Those are liver and pancreas. So the liver secretes a juice known as bile juice, and pancreas secrete a juice known as pancreatic juice. So both these juices, you can see the small ducts open into the small intestine itself. So the bile juice from the liver as well as the pancreatic juice from the pancreas also will be dumped into the small intestine. So what are the main functions of these juices? First, coming to the bile juice. So the main function of the bile juice is emulsification of fats. Means emulsification of fats means conversion of large fat globules into smaller flat globules. This process is known as emulsification of fats. Okay. In addition to this, it also converts the pH of the food which is entering from the stomach to the small intestine into alkaline. What is the pH of food which is present in the stomach? It is in the acidic condition. So acidic condition, from acidic condition, the pH of the food will be turned into alkaline condition. Means it will be increasing the pH more than 7. Why it requires to increase the pH is because the enzymes that is present in the pancreatic juice secreted by the pancreas, that is the trypsin enzyme. This is the trypsin enzyme. It is only active in the alkaline conditions. It is only active in the alkaline condition. So the pH of the food will be turned into alkaline, as well as emulsification of the fats will be done by the bile juice secreted by the liver. Next, coming to the pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice secrete enzymes, that is trypsin, and also the trypsin. First of all, the trypsin is only active in the alkaline pH, and its main function is to convert the proteins to peptones. And what is the function of lipase? Lipase will be converting the emulsified fats into fat acids and glycerol. Emulsified fats means the fats that is smaller fatty acids are known as emulsified fats. So the emulsified fats will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol. In addition to the digestion, absorption also takes place in the small intestine. So to increase the absorption capacity, the small intestine have finger-like projections known as villi or microvilli. This absorbs maximum number of nutrients. Whatever the digested food is there, maximum amount will be absorbed by the small microvilli which are present in the surface of the small intestine. Finger-like projections known as villi or microvilli are present on the surface of the small intestine in this manner. I'm just putting dots for your understanding. So there will be finger-like projections like this on the surface. This increases the area. Main function of this villi or microvilli is to increase the surface area of the absorption. So once the complete food digestion and absorption takes place only in the small intestine. So after that, whatever the food, undigested food, enters into the larger intestine. Okay, it enters into the larger intestine. Here in the larger intestine, this is the complete larger intestine. This is the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon. This is the colon part of the large intestine. So all this, whatever the part you can see, this is the colon part of the large intestine. So in the large intestine, only the water is absorbed. No digestion takes place in the large intestine. Only the food, whatever the water which is present, excess of water present in the food will be, undigested food will be absorbed in the large intestine. Once the food is absorbed, next finally it enters into the rectum. This part is known as the rectum. This part is the rectum. This is the place where the food will be collected. Temporarily waste will be, undigested waste or food or a waste will be stored, and finally it will be ejected out through the anus. The undigested food finally will be thrown outside the body through the anus. So anus is also guarded by two sphincter muscles. So only we can hold when we are wanted to defecate ourselves also, we can hold it for some time because we also have a regulation over there. These are, the anus is also guarded by the two sphincter muscles. Only when those valves are open, the undigested food is excreted outside. So this is the complete digestive system, which I try to give you all in form of a flow chart so that it will be easy for your understanding. Hope all of you have understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts? Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
So you have taken a screenshot?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What is
Yes,
trypsin,
ma'am.
ma'am? I didn't understand that.
Trypsin is an enzyme.
Okay, ma'am.
It is only active in the alkaline pH.
Okay, ma'am.
And its function is to convert proteins to digest proteins to peptones, means smaller proteins.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Any more doubts?
Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat the definition for sphincter muscles, ma'am?
Sphincter muscles are the muscles that guard the exit of the food from the stomach to the duodenum, that is the small intestine.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
It's like a flap, like a valve. Once it closes, again the food cannot enter back to the stomach. Whereas epiglottis can be worn out as we grow, as we age. So it may not be closing properly due to that. Sometimes the food which is already mixed with HCl or something will be flowing back to the esophagus. Due to that, we may get heartburn or gas problem, we call it as.
Thanks, ma'am.
Any doubts with this? So with this, I'm going to conclude the class. By next class, I'll be seeing, if it's online also, I will be checking your homework. I'll be asking all to switch on your videos and be checking your homework. I want the complete diagram of the digestive system and write in the stepwise manner what is happening in each and every part of the digestive system. What are the different components present? For example, what does the stomach contains? And what are the enzymes released by the stomach or gastric juice? And what are its functions? I want to properly be written by all and show me in the next class. Okay? Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Oh, buddies. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Don't tell me my video is not working. This all. I'll be checking each and every one. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So with this,
Yes,
I conclude my class. Do you have any more
Okay,
doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All of you should be more interactive, active when we are taking the class. I know all of you are fed up from past 1 year with the online classes, but still you all should need to be active. Maybe
Yes,
we'll be
ma'am.
having 2 weeks of online class because everywhere lockdown is being will be going on for 2 weeks. So just be patient and answer. Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.